back to BLOCKTV, where it's time now for Chain Breakers. Now, we all know that when it comes to the crypto communities, XRP, the third largest coin on the market, has some strong defenders. So today, we have put forward a chance for rebuttal. The gauntlet was thrown by trader and analyst Tone Vays, and one man has heeded the call. I'm joined now by Matt Hamilton, a Ripple and XRP expert, to discuss the response to Tone's ardent attacks against XRP and Ripple. And Matt, firstly, welcome so much to the show. And before we get to you, we're going to throw to the original soundbite of Tone that set off this whole kerfuffle.
This is what always bothered me about Ripple. You are a company. You may or may not do something interesting in the database space to help the banks, route their data. The Ripple token itself has absolutely no place. The Ripple token now more than ever acts as a security of the Ripple Corporation. And in which case it was launched illegally, it was launched without compliance. And I think the Ripple people that created it should be held accountable. I usually don't like people getting arrested, but if the C-level management of Ripple gets arrested, I'll actually be happy. It's one of the few times I can honestly say that.
All right, Matt, so before I even say anything and ask a question, I want to give you a chance to respond directly to Tone and what he just said. What do you say in response to Tone Vays?
Sure, thanks for having me. I find it strange what Tone has said. Now, Tone, for people who've seen him before, he deliberately, I believe, or through his own ignorance of the space, conflates Ripple, the company, and XRP, the token. You can tell from any interview he does in which he talks about the Ripple token continually, the Ripple token, the Ripple token. He likes to conflate XRP and Ripple together. And that's the only way he can make the kind of argument that he does. So he's saying there that Ripple has acted illegally and he would be happy if the senior management were arrested. So far as I'm aware, no illegal activity has happened. There is nothing that has been illegal or deemed illegal. So I'm not quite sure where he's, getting this from. So Ripple recently, as you know, and what's brought this about, has gone through a Series C investment and taken on $200 million, which values the company at about 10 billion, I think it is. And they've done that to validate their business model. Now that's Ripple the company. Ripple the company and XRP the cryptocurrency are separate entities. Yes, they influence each other just in the same way that, say, Blockstream and Bitcoin influence each other, or Bitcoin and Bitmain influence each other. But they are separate entities. And that's the key point here that Tone, I think, deliberately always misstates in order to make his argument. So as far as I can see, so far there's not been any illegal activity by Ripple. This token was created before the Ripple company even existed. It was developed by 3 individuals who, some of them then went on to form the Ripple company. And that's a very standard practice in IT software. I mean, if you look at, there's loads of Elasticsearch in the search space, for example, was a piece of software, and then a company called Elastic was then created to commercialize it. SendMail, the mail software. SendMail is open source mail software, just as Ripple was an open source ledger. And SendMail, the company, was then created to provide commercial services on top. So this is a very familiar model within the IT services industry. It might be that he's just not familiar of it in the sort of trading space. But, I don't see anything illegal that's been going on here.
But Matt, let's get realistic here. I mean, XRP was released as a pre-mine, and Ripple itself is far and away the largest holder of XRP in the world. So why now? And as honored as we are to have you here speaking with us on BLOCKTV, we're happy to have you here today. But why are we speaking with you and not a representative from Ripple, who we have repeatedly reached out to but have been unwilling to speak with us about any topics related to the company itself or the affiliated token XRP?
Right. Now, I don't represent Ripple. I'm not a Ripple employee. I'm not a Ripple spokesperson. I can't speak on their behalf. And you say you've reached out to them. It could be that, they don't see that there's any case to particularly answer for, and they're busy building what they're building. They have, not taken heed of all of the naysayers for the past, 6 years in the crypto industry that have been saying, XRP is going to die, Ripple's going to go bust, et cetera, et cetera. And none of that has happened. Ripple have been concentrating on what they are doing. So the reason you're talking to me is I'm an ardent supporter of XRP, the cryptocurrency. And I don't see that whatever Ripple's business model is, that is distinct from XRP, the token. Now, I happen to like Ripple, the company. I think they're doing a fantastic job. They're one of the few companies who are actually doing something specific, measurable, and successful in the crypto space. And they are bridging the crypto world and the existing, financial world. There's so many companies who are kind of living in a crypto bubble trying to build stuff that really doesn't have that much bearing on the real world. Whereas Ripple are actually taking the highest people from around the finance and economics world and bringing them together in order to actually push for cryptocurrencies as a whole, but XRP in particular, but cryptocurrencies as a whole, to get better adoption. So they're looking at things like regulation. They're looking at things like how can these things be used, and rather than just sort of sit and moan about that regulation is holding them back. For example, they created a product originally called XRapid, which is now known as ODL, on-demand liquidity, that allows financial institutions, banks, money transfer companies to access and use cryptocurrencies like XRP in this case, without specifically having to hold it. So whatever legal implication there is around a bank holding XRP, they've been able to basically sidestep around that by saying, okay, you don't need to actually hold it, but you can still get a lot of the benefits of using a cryptocurrency to move value from one side of the planet to another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, undoubtedly, they have strived for a use case in a very particular way that perhaps other coins have lacked. Though I'd still hope, Matt, if you could possibly answer the question regarding Ripple as the largest holder of XRP and who does unlock approximately 1 billion XRP as standard protocol every month, putting that out into the market, that would have an impact on the market as a whole. And I just wonder if you think that is an element of centralization, if that has an impact on the market, or if that's something that users should be focused on or aware of.
Sure. Okay. So Ripple do hold the largest amount of XRP. They hold about 60% of the XRP in existence. But you're slightly incorrect there about them releasing 1 billion XRP into the market each month. So what they've done is they voluntarily locked up the majority of their XRP into escrow contracts. These are cryptographic escrow contracts maintained by the blockchain in a similar way to smart contracts and hash time locks, for example, on various other blockchains. And these escrow contracts release a certain amount, so 1 billion every month. Now, Ripple have actually put the majority of that back into a further escrow contract at the end of the queue. So they've got a rolling queue of contracts that expire as time goes on. And the last 2 months, they've put it all back. So they're not releasing any of it into the market. Now, what people have to realize is that whilst they own a large amount, and some people might say that is centralization, that they own a large amount, the actual blockchain itself is decentralized, right? Ripple only control a very small percentage of the nodes on the network. So overall, about 1% of the nodes on the network are run by Ripple. And I think it's about 7% of what's known as the validator nodes are run by Ripple. So if Ripple were to act against the best interests of the rest of the network, they are in the minority. And actually the rest of the network could decide to, in effect, burn Ripple's holdings. So they've got the biggest incentive to play good. They've got the biggest incentive to not harm the marketplace. And they hold the largest amount. So they're the biggest stakeholder. They want it, of course, to do well. There's various conspiracy theories about them holding the price down or whatever. But yet, if you look at the price and zoom out, it pretty much follows Bitcoin for most of the time. Okay, 2019, Bitcoin's gone up a bit. But if you actually look out at the long run, it's done pretty much what Bitcoin has done, going up and down. I got into cryptocurrencies 3 years ago. And since then, XRP has outperformed Bitcoin. If I put $1,000 in Bitcoin and 1,000 in XRP when I first got into the market, my XRP holdings would be worth more than my Bitcoin holdings right now. So, to say that they're centralizing, I think is kind of only brought about by a lack of understanding about how the actual cryptocurrency and how the blockchain itself works, because that's the bit that determines whether or not something is decentralized or centralized. And the ironic thing being is actually the XRP blockchain is functionally more decentralized than Bitcoin. So, you were talking yesterday with somebody about the mining rigs that got seized in China and how 66% is of, hash power is located in China. Well, that's a huge centralizing effect on the control on Bitcoin. And that just doesn't exist on the XRP ledger, because you would have to compromise something in the region of about, 20, I think it's about 28 different nodes scattered around, 28 different entities scattered around the globe, rather than, 3 or 4 mining pools in China. So it's functionally it is actually more decentralized than Bitcoin.
So then, looking at XRP as a whole, because one of the big elements that's sort of promoted when it comes to let's say Ripple's activities with the XRapid and whatnot, is they say that they really strive for a use case, a functional use case, in a way that other cryptocurrencies don't necessarily have. They're a solution looking for a problem, as it were. But XRP and Ripple as a whole, particularly as a company, generally strives to say that they have a use case above and beyond others. Talking to that point, what do you see as the strengths of the marketplace there, as opposed to its potential competitors?
So yes, Ripple are focusing on one particular thing: cross-border payments, right? And not just the payment, but the settlement, the immediate settlement of that payment. So at the moment, anybody can send effectively what would be an IOU from a bank on one side of the planet to a bank on another side. But what Ripple enable banks to do is to send actual tokenized value via using the XRP token. Now, what they're doing could be replicated or could use any other cryptocurrency token. It could use Bitcoin, it could use Ethereum. The difference being is that XRP is one of the fastest tokens to do that, and the cheapest in which to transact in. And what we've seen is, especially within the USA Mexican peso, US dollar Mexican peso corridor, we've seen a very big ramp up over the past year of transactions on the ledger that indicate transactions actually going on using XRapid for both the Mexican peso and also the Philippine peso as well, US dollar to Philippine peso. And a lot of people have been studying the XRP ledger and kind of working out where these transactions are going around the world. And there's been a massive increase in, them actually being used. Now, MoneyGram, who most people know is kind of like the headline act in this, and Ripple's XRapid, or ODL as it's now called, product, they're saying they're only putting through 10% of their traffic so far through their Mexican peso, US dollar Mexican peso traffic. They're only putting 10% so far through ODL. And, they're slowly ramping that up. But one of the things that actually is holding them back is the counterparty to that. If they're trying to buy or sell pesos, they need somebody else to buy or sell the opposite side of that trade. And the exchanges are slowly ramping up. So the exchange in Mexico, the volume is increasing. And actually the XRP USD volume is something like 4 times now what the Bitcoin volume is on that exchange, because it's being used. And that's just one use case. That's just Ripple. And again, another thing that Tone keeps calling, XRP useless, despite the fact it is actually being used. That's just one use case that Ripple are focusing on, because XRP is an open protocol. It's an open network. There's other companies building upon it. So one of the other most well-known is Coil. Now, Coil are doing micropayments for content creators, and they did something like 10 billion micropayment transactions in XRP last year. And they are, again, they are ramping this up. And this is allowing people to have, transparent payment for content creators. And a company called Cinnamon are doing a video platform a bit like YouTube, in which content creators can get payment directly streamed. So for every second of video you watch, payment is being sent to the author. It's not a week later, a month later. It's right as the video is being watched, the payment is being sent. And that's only possible because of the low transaction fees in XRP and how efficient it is to transact in. So there's a number of other companies also doing things with XRP, and it is directly, being used by them.
Right. Now, I suppose I have to wonder, with so many new projects coming onto the market, whether we be talking about, the potential Libra project coming in 2020, even talking about the Chinese CBDC, we're talking about Binance's Venus project. There's a number of different projects out there that claim to be able to provide that sort of cross-country rapid liquidity and rapid transfer rates. Do you think there's any risk to XRP as a currency, that it risks losing value in the face of stiff competition for that particular market?
I personally don't think so. Now, again, history is littered with occasions in which the technologically superior thing has not succeeded because of other factors, but I don't see so, because in this case, when you're talking about things like Libra or the Chinese, central bank digital currency, all of these are fiat pegged. Now, in the case of Libra, it's pegged to a basket, but it is a permissioned network in which companies have to pay to be a part of that network. And they have a basket of currencies tied to, a fiat currency. And if you're doing cross-border, then things like stablecoins, they don't even make sense, because stable to what? So say I'm making a payment from, pounds sterling to Zimbabwean dollars. Well, which one of those do we use as a stable currency? Now, Zimbabwean dollars historically has not been very stable. So why would I peg a cryptocurrency to that? So if they're sending a payment back to the UK, does that mean they, by some negotiation, use a pound sterling stable coin? How do they obtain that stable coin? How do they hold on to it? Is the Bank of America going to want to, bag hold some stable coin from the Bank of Uzbekistan, for example? Probably not. And you end up just replicating the same correspondent banking system that we have, in which you have multiple currencies and multiple currencies being parked around the world. Okay, it's a little more efficient because digital tokens are a bit more efficient and can be moved quicker, but still, why would they want the risk of holding that? So that's where I think XRP, is unique. Currencies like XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they don't have a direct counterparty. They're not pegged to a particular fiat currency. So that, in this case, I believe is a benefit, right? And there's a lot of people within cryptocurrency who got into it for the slightly anarchic, viewpoint. If they think, for example, the US dollar has had its run and they think that it has too much power and shouldn't be used as much, et cetera, et cetera. Well, for those same people to say, well, we should use a fiat-backed stablecoin just doesn't make any sense, right? So,
So I want to get back now, Matt. I want to go sort of zoom in a little bit on the real the reality of the situation as it stands now, because the fact of the matter is, as we close 2019, we're sitting in a situation where XRP has had its second bearish year in a row. It's now down about 45% or so on its January 1st levels, and again, for a second year in a row, seeing declines. We're hovering around the 19-cent mark at the moment. Is that any cause for concern? Does that price loss worry you at all, coming from the peaks of well over $3 back in 2017? Now, obviously, the whole market has seen a downturn, but XRP has had a particularly rough time. Does that worry you at all?
Not really, because in the long run, I mean, this is a young market. I mean, the strange thing is people keep saying that same thing about XRP, yet do they ask the same thing when Bitcoin went from 20,000 down to 3,000? If you look back in time and look at the early bear markets of Bitcoin and the early bear markets of XRP, XRP's gone through this before. Bitcoin's gone through this before. Will it go up again? I don't know. It's a very different, marketplace now to the ICO heavy days of 2017 and everybody just jumping in, crazily buying stuff. I think everybody's a bit more knowledgeable, a bit more cautious now than they used to be. So I don't know if you're going to have these massive, massive bull runs you had before. But in the long term, yes, I still think it's, it's very good. I mean, even I'm looking at the screen here now, and your ticker along the bottom here, your subtitle said, or it's just changed now, but Ripple has, best year ever yet third quarter drop or something. And again, that's still conflating Ripple, the company, which has had its best year ever and signed the most partners, with XRP, the cryptocurrency, which, as you said, has seen a decline along with the rest of the market. So I think long term, I just don't see what is going to fill that role that XRP is looking to fill. The biggest player, Bitcoin, that's the household name. That's the first player. Everybody knows that. So that's the granddaddy that's been around the longest. That's going to do well by virtue of that. But there's certain things that Bitcoin just still cannot do, right? It can't transact quickly. I mean, the video with the interview with Roger Ver, the sort of debate between Roger Ver and Tone Vays, in which Roger Ver challenged Tone Vays to make a payment, and it only turned up whenever it was 12 hours later because somebody at Slush Pool managed to push it through manually and prioritize it. And yet people talk about XRP and talk about centralization, and here you have a mining pool that was able to directly prioritize a transaction. So No, I think in the long run, XRP's got a lot of upside potential because I just don't see what else is going to fill that space. I really don't.
But Matt, I mean, I've got to ask. I mean, you know, looking from an outside perspective, let's move away for a second. If I'm entering into the crypto market, I look at a currency like XRP. I see that it was created and entirely pre-mined. I see that it's 60% held by this parent company Ripple, and then I'm constantly being told by very avid fans, and no doubt, as we've seen time and time again, XRP does have some of the most voracious advocates in the entire community. But we're being told, no, there is no relationship between Ripple and XRP, despite the fact that it is entire pre-mine, that, as you said, many of its founders went on to found Ripple, the company, and that company holds 60% of the assets. Matt, I mean, surely, you know, if I'm looking at any other asset out there, any other company, a subsidiary in a mainstream market, and I see that level of association, I can't help but think when it quacks like a duck, it may be a duck. You know, you've got to give some credit to that, surely.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, that is a good point. And nobody's saying there's no relationship, right? We're just saying that they're distinct entities. If Ripple were to suddenly disappear off the planet, XRP would still continue. Would it take a price hit? Yeah, of course it would. In the same way that if Bitmain suddenly went bust, then Bitcoin would probably take a price hit. The difference being is that with XRP, it wouldn't actually affect the security and the operation of the network versus if Bitmain disappeared, right? Which would have a, you know, material effect on the network. So, you know, yes, there is an association, and there's some people in the XRP community, as you've pointed out, they're a very vocal community that over the past 2 years has grown particularly large. And within any communities, you have various factions within the community. You know, there's people you no doubt heard of, the 589ers that were going on about this time last year, that XRP was going to hit $589 because some cartoon bear prophesized it or whatever. You know, that is just absolutely ludicrous, right? I mean, that is just insane that that's going to happen. Yet, you know, at the same time, look at Bitcoin. You have well-known Bitcoin advocates who last year were saying, well, Bitcoin's going to be at 100,000 this year, right? And it's not, right? You know, trying to predict these things a year in advance is just crazy. People can't do it. There's so many aspects affecting this market. And, you know, there's whales in the market that are buying and selling. There's algorithmic traders that treat the entire, you know, category, the entire class as one. And so, you know, if one cryptocurrency sells, they sell all the others within it. And you see them moving in such lockstep. When some bad news hits, say, Ethereum, Bitcoin and XRP both drop as well. So, you know, these things are really related to each other. And I don't see, like, long term, I think that's going to change. But I think this is still very much a long game. Of course, XRP and Ripple, of course, there is a relationship there. You know, people are expecting companies like Ripple, Coil, Forte, XRPL Labs are all building R3. They're all building stuff on the XRP ledger. And it's these people building stuff that's going to provide, you know, the eventual value in this market. You know, just with Bitcoin, it's now moved to it's a store of value and everybody's just going to hold it, you know, mantra. It's completely moved away from what was described in Satoshi's original paper. I mean, this will probably piss off a lot of Bitcoiners, but I would say that XRP closer matches the desires of the original Bitcoin paper than Bitcoin does right now. Because you can't use Bitcoin to do as a digital cash replacement right now. It's just too slow and just too expensive. So, you know, regardless of how much Ripple hold, or regardless of how much influence Ripple have on the marketplace, there's still other people doing stuff and it's still usable. You know, if you're moving value between exchanges and DeFi platforms, it's still the best way to do it. You know, it's the fastest and it's the cheapest. It takes 3 seconds for an exchange to accept a XRP payment. It takes an hour for it to accept a Bitcoin payment because there's a fear of rollbacks. That fear just doesn't exist in the XRP ledger because there is no notion of a chain rollback. It just doesn't exist in the protocol.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, we're going to have to wrap it there, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to break down this, to rebut Tone and talk about the other side. We always appreciate here on BLOCKTV being able to display both sides of the argument. So Matt Hamilton, I want to thank you again. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and a wonderful New Year. And for all those at home, keep watching at blocktv.com for all the latest in news, information, and the best of analysis. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.